solar opportunity is absolutely immense at the moment. We're seeing this as the leading global technology for the renewable revolution that is going on. Solar today is cheaper than most fossil fuels. It's cheaper than coal. You can't imagine that a few years ago we were considered an expensive technology. In the last 8 years, we've come down by 75%. It means that you, I, and all the people of Europe and the world can utilize this beautiful, clean power. So one of the problems that we have faced in the sector is, of course, the measures that governments put in place. They sometimes take away much faster than they told the industry they would. Of course, that makes it very difficult to do business. We expect stable frameworks to be delivered for our sector. Of course, we don't like them when they happen, but we're a resilient sector. Our price differential makes us competitive. And so what I would say is that ultimately, in the end, even without that kind of stability in the framework that we would want, we're still able to do business. Look, I mean, in the UK recently, we've seen a 10 megawatt solar farm coupled with an 18 megawatt battery farm that basically has gone on to a grid parity system. So if you're able to deliver a kind of subsidy-free solar system in the UK, you've got to say there's a great, great future. Even if that project's a lighthouse project today, many more will come. So one of the main problems that we face in Europe for the uptake of solar has definitely been things like retroactive measures. And what I mean by that is when a government put in place a subsidy scheme and then they suddenly took it away and asked people to pay it back, or where you had other countries where they put sun taxes, so-called sun taxes, on people who decided to adopt solar and were actually just self-consuming their electricity. They suddenly found they had to pay a tax. And this, of course, meant that people were disincentivized. The good news is that all of these measures and this type of behavior has just basically been outlawed. The European Commission has set in place, this is a sort of trans-European government body, has put in place a new regulation that basically protects consumers who have solar power so they can self-consume without the fear of anybody interfering with their own right to develop and produce their own electricity. And on the grander scale, they've also said that governments that commit things like retroactive measures should actually face a kind of infringement procedure from them. So this should disincentivize governments to move in the ways they have in the past. So things are looking bright. It's a positive future. We think we're really on the new dawn of a new solar revolution in Europe. We think that the trade policies of the Trump administration are very, very regrettable. We don't believe that trade wars are won easily. We think they only create losers. In fact, we can't think of anybody who ever won from fighting a trade war. If we want to go back in time and look at what happens when you put lots of protectionist measures in places, you only have to look to the end of the Soviet Union to understand how bad that is for people. Our view is that the Trump administration's activities are undoubtedly having a negative impact on the overall flow of solar panels and solar industry in general across the world. And so we would encourage them, and indeed have written to the European Commission to tell them to negotiate harder to get Mr. Trump to drop his Section 201 30% tariffs on solar panels.